So as the U.S. considers intervening in Syria, it may want to take a look at Libya. NATO intervened there, and today the country remains torn apart. Just this week, a region in eastern Libya declared their semi-autonomy. Tribal leaders decided their new state will come with its own parliament and police force. But Libya's National Transitional Council doesn't want to let this happen. And the transitional leader says he's willing to use military force to ensure the country doesn't split up. So as Libya struggles to find stability, is it all a sign that foreign military intervention simply doesn't work? Well, to help me answer this and more, I'm joined now by Asia Times correspondent Pepe Escobar. Nice to see you, Pepe. So Libya's future remains dangerously uncertain. Are they any closer to achieving democracy today?
It's a joke. Welcome to BARRQUAA. Anybody expected BARRQUAA to show up in international relations like even a few days ago? Of course not. Or maybe yes, because this is exactly what the Qataris and the House of SAUD wanted. BARRQUAA, the way it's constituted, it's a splinter state in Libya, in Cyrenaica, and it's going to be run more or less like an emirate. They have a lot of oil. They have a connection with the monarchies in the Persian Gulf. And guess who's going to be the strong man behind of this, or the figurehead? A relative of former king of Libya, King Idris. So this is exactly what was the plan from the beginning, from the point of view of the Persian Gulf. We have a NATO puppet in Tripoli. MUSTAFFA ABDUL NATO, as we call him, not MUSTAFFA ABDUL JALIL. He's saying that he's going to intervene. So he's going to be what? Gaddafi #2, Gaddafi 2.0. He's going to intervene against the people of Cyrenaica all over again because they are splintering. This is a tribal problem in Libya. We have been talking about this on RT for months, and I've been writing about this as well, among other commentators. The tribes in eastern Libya have been antagonizing a central government in Tripoli for decades, if not centuries. And this is exactly what's happening. The country is splintered. NATO doesn't care, of course. The US, the Brits, and the French don't care. As long as they have contracts with Tripoli, what happens in the eastern part, they don't care. This is going to be more or less ruled by Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
So you don't think a post-Gaddafi Libya, longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi is any better off than it was before?
Of course not. And this is what, for the past 8-10 months, we have been talking about this. The only possible solution for Libya, if there is a violent overthrow of Gaddafi, it's a civil war, a simmering civil war. And this is exactly what's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Look at how Libya totally disappeared from the news cycle for the past 3 or 4 months, in fact. Because nobody cares. The people who decide, NATO, the alliance between, especially between Washington, London, and Paris, and the GCC, they wanted to take over and then distribute the spoils. And who cares about the future of Libya as a democracy? It's not going to be a democracy. It's going to be a warring feuds, tribal feuds that is going to go on forever.
Now, you just said we're not hearing a lot about Libya. What we are hearing a lot about right now is Syria, and the U.S. now trying to decide if they're going to intervene and how they will intervene, whether they're going to take military action. Here's what Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said just yesterday.
Although we will not rule out any future course of action, currently the administration is focusing on diplomatic and political approaches rather than military intervention. Guided by our approach from Libya and elsewhere.
So he says, guided by our approach from Libya and elsewhere. So, I mean, looking at what is happening there in Libya, is intervening in Syria really a good idea?
Well, multiply all the problems we outline about Libya to maybe 1 million or 10 million, and this is going to be a Syria ruled by a NATO puppet, or maybe a Sunni hardcore Muslim Brotherhood government allied with the House of SAUD and the Qataris. This is what you're going to have in Syria. It's out of the question. Look, your previous story was excellent because it showed what kind of people have been working inside Syria. We have been writing and talking about this for months. And now, once again, there's graphic proof. Qatari agents, British intelligence, French intelligence, the Israeli Mossad, including supplying of weapons to the so-called Free Syrian Army. And these people who were organizing the, let's say, the resistance in Bab al-Amr, some of them were captured, maybe as many as 600 or 700 operatives. And this proves that the Syrian protest, the indigenous Syrian protest against the Assad government, which is absolutely legitimate, in the long run was totally hijacked by the interests of US, NATO, Turkey, and especially Qatar and the House of Saud. So you multiply these problems by an infinite margin, and this is what's going to be democratic Syria post-Assad. And the Russians and the Chinese know it. That's why the Russians have their own plan. The Chinese have their own alternative plan. Chinese diplomats are in Damascus at the moment. They are discussing transition. And the referendum was a step towards, I would say, a measured solution, a diplomatic solution. It's not ideal, but it's the best under the circumstances. The other possibility is civil war.
Now, Pepe, we are seeing what is happening in Libya. Also, another example is Egypt. Egypt, a far cry away from achieving a democracy there. So does this all serve as proof that foreign military intervention doesn't really work?
Well, look at Iraq. And I rest my case.
Well, Pepe, we're going to leave it at that. Nice to see you, Pepe. That was Pepe Escobar, Asia Times correspondent.